Welcome, everyone. Hi, I'm Diana Lovejoy. Thank you for joining us tonight. You are what you eat, and you want to eat what you grow. Growing your own food is a good way to a healthy lifestyle, bringing you close to nature, where you discover a new, healthy, peaceful, joyful life in the garden. The Organic Garden Club is on a mission for a better life on Earth, following nature's cycle, growing organic fruits and veggies in our backyard without chemicals, using compost, earthworms, and native plants to create a balanced ecosystem. Discover what's alive in the present moment by growing an organic food garden where you live. Organic gardening purifies the air, water, and soil in your environment. Yes, it does. And home gardening is the growing answer to great taste, better quality food, and saving money on food and doctor bills. So grow a backyard pharmacy. Find health, peace of mind, and boost your immune system. Thinking of garden tasks improves your cognitive functions and decreases stress. Your mind is a garden, your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. Many of our past Zoom meetings are on our website. So I'll put our website on the chat. There's a chat button on the bottom of your screen. I hope everybody sees it. And you can chat. I'm going to mute everyone uh, during the Alex's talk. So now I'd like to introduce Alex Zadeh. Woo!
Hello.
AZ Ranch Organic Fruits and Veggies. And he's going to tell us all about his adventures and setbacks of turning his hobby farm in Agoura into today's certified organic AZ ranch that sells delicious, hard to find varieties of fruits and veggies at farmers markets across Ventura and LA counties. And I will put in his farm stand and nursery address and his um, website. So thank you, Alex.
Not a problem, guys. I really appreciate being here. And I can't wait to show you, review a little bit what we've done before and the new journey that we are on now together. Um, so here we go. So the cool thing about us, we actually started off in Pasadena. My dad, who has over 20 years, over many years of farming experience in his home country in Iran. They had a 40-hectare garden back in the day, and he learned from their master gardener on how to grow fruits and vegetables, and he never lost the bug for that. So when he came to the U.S., he studied civil engineering and became a engineer, and he worked for the county of Los Angeles for about 30 years. In '98, he started realizing that he wanted to get back to growing on a bigger scale, and he outgrew our backyard in Pasadena. And in 2000, he was able to find the first bit of land that we're farming today. And that's the property right off of Canyon Road in Agoura Hills. Um, and so it just kind of was a hodgepodge of a man who loves the garden and wanted to share his vision of what he's super excited about. And every single fruit tree that started off was a gift, kind of a cutting from a friend's tree, and that's how it kind of all blossomed into what we are today. Today we farm, we manage 43 acres. 38 of that is in LA County. 5 acres is actually in Somis, Camarillo. Um, and actually, at the end of this year, we'll be farming another additional 2 acres in Ventura County. And potentially by the end of next year, we'll be picking up 42 acres in Ventura County, in addition to the 7 or so that we already have.
Wow.
So that's kind of something we are slowly trying to get to that point on that. And it's just something that kind of happened in the last 72 hours. So kind of a little nervous brainchild that we're going to roll through with our new growing program that we kind of put forward this year. That was a 5 to 6 year kind of testing and understanding it. So when we started off in Agoura, we obviously started a lot is in nursery pots, just kind of getting everything going. Um, and like the way that we grow things is everything has been tried and tested by my father and I. Obviously, original days was him testing everything because he was the one more excited about it. I was just a kid saying, "Oh, I'm playing in the dirt," and I'm still a kid playing in the dirt, even though tomorrow is my birthday. And I honestly wouldn't have changed this career path for anything else. It's super fun to be outside, and I have like the best coworker and friend and mentor to have. So I get to work with my dad every day, and honestly couldn't ask for a better way to live my life and grow some amazing
Oh,
fruits.
wonderful.
So right here is a quince tree. This is one of my dad's favorite trees that we grow. He loves to make jam from it. The really cool thing about quince, it has like a real fine fuzzy fur on it, and when you kind of like rub your hands on it, it releases like a very uh, aromatic flavor of like vanilla, and so it's one of our favorite things to grow here. I don't like jam, but this is the only fruit that I am obsessed with when we make jam with it. There's just something about quince, and it has a beautiful rosé color when you cook with it. Just some more citrus. This is looks like a variegated lemon tree. Sorry, out of focus. These are our first round of blackberries. This is Apache blackberry. Um, so all this stuff was in our nursery before the fire in 2018. Um, these are plums right here. This is our little pomegranate patch that is right when you kind of enter into the farm. So this was like our little first trial area because the thing about our farm in Agoura, it first started off with the first 28 acres. There was kind of like the testing ground to see what could grow, because we started off as hobby farm is the best way to say, or a hobby garden, and then just kind of started just playing around, seeing what would grow. We didn't even know what organic was, and the reason why was we just didn't use any chemicals or anything that you couldn't pronounce. So it was kind of like, it's back in the day of just being like organic was known, but it wasn't really like, how do you get this stuff? Or everything was just kind of trial and error. Um, and that's kind of how we've always been is we've done more with less. And the other thing too out here is we do have a mountain that we farm. It's not a traditional flatland farm in Agoura. We do have some flat areas now after the expansion in 2016. And then obviously in Somis, it's more of a rolling hill. But our farm in Agoura, if you guys ever come by, you'll see it's very mountainous. And so for every single tree that is there was actually, we jackhammered them in. Um, and so we do cut some of the shrub oak and then we do put in these trees back in. And the cool thing about us being on a slope, we have to be conscientious about erosion and water. And so for every tree, we build a tree well. So that way, when there's runoff during the crazy rains that we get that are crazy and not so crazy at times, the tree wells capture a lot of the water. So it's just free water right there. And we're also not eroding the hillside. So our bread and butter that we've been growing for about 25 years now are figs. Figs, 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 figs. They're some of the most amazing fruits that I have actually personally enjoy. Um, there is not a season where I have not tried probably from every tree if I can do it. The thing about it is just they're truly magical. I think there's something to it of being able to try a fresh fig or having someone try a fig for the first time because a lot of people they'll have experience with figs but they'll be like I've had a fig Newton before and that's like well you have not lived life till you've tried a fresh fig. And so that's kind of like our thing at farmers markets when people are like I've never had one. Well, let me let you try one. Like let's start this journey of your fig journey together. And so that's kind of like our favorite thing to do is to expose people to figs. And now in the last couple of years, figs are very prominent. Um, but the way that we start off with figs, like I said before, a lot of our plants are coming from cuttings. So before we started the farm, we had the mini backyard garden in Pasadena, and my dad got fig cuttings from friends where he tried their figs, and he went one or two people beyond that to get cuttings from those trees. Because a lot of times when you take cuttings from trees, it starts dwindling the genetics, and it's not going to be as vigorous and strong. And so that's kind of like what has set us apart because our figs are pretty large. Sometimes, depending on like we have one that we call the cadota, that is the donut cadota, and about four of those equal to a pound. So they're like the donut peach, but it's in a cadota green color as a cadota fig. And so it's one of those things where it's like genetics are very key, and that's what we really pride ourselves to make sure that when we get figs, we try them out and see if they're going to be to our standards. And every year we're trying to add more fig varieties. Um, Unbeknownst to me, like I only thought there was over 1,000 fig varieties, just 1,000, that was it. But I was talking to a farmer that I met, and he's like, "There's actually a gentleman who has a Rolodex of 14,000 fig varieties."
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, how do I get in contact with this person?" He's like, "You can't. It's via mail only. How you can get to this catalog, and it is not in English, so that's a big problem right there for me, because I don't speak or write fluent Spanish yet, but I'm working on it. But it's something that as a young farmer, the excitement is always finding the new and exciting, or bringing back a variety of something that people haven't seen before, and that's where we're slowly trending towards going forward now. So one of the stores that we do supply is Irwan in LA, um, and we've been with them since 2013. And also in 2013 is when we officially became certified organic. Um, but like I said, we were farming organically before that. We just didn't really know what organic was because I and a couple other people just it's old school common sense agriculture. You're just trying to work with the land um, and be just mindful stewards of what you're doing, and that's how we still feel today. Like even though in Agoura we do have 38 acres, of that probably 15 to 20 of it is actually farmed, and the rest is wild natural habitat. So we have a
mm.
lot of shrub oaks, chaparrals. We have, I could just say, millions and millions of wildflowers at times. We leave that as the areas that maybe we're not going to get too far into it because it's too hard to get in there, or it's just an area that we feel that Mother Nature should just have. And like that's also goes with our philosophy with our trees. We always leave the top 10% in the orchards for the birds. And we hope they stay there and they'll eat what's up there and leave the bottom half of the trees, for us to, bring to markets and bring to customers. Um,
Well, Alex, how many fig varieties do you grow?
as of right now, we have 10 fig varieties that we have commercially available. last year I picked up 20 varieties of figs that we're trialing out. And these are fig varieties that I got all across the US from other growers. And then I also got some from a gentleman at the from the Organic Garden Club as well.
Paul.
So we're also growing those. I have a couple from him. He and I did some trading, which is kind of like how farming is, you know, like if someone has something and you're really interested and they're like, oh, you have that, let's trade. And so it's kind of cool where, you know, we're openly trading genetics and trying to see like if it does better in your area versus my area. And it's like, cool, like maybe I'm not having a strong season on this, and it's cool that my friend is having a strong season, so I can send business his way, or he's not having, he needs help. You know, it's really cool that to see how that all goes. Like the farming world, I think in the last 5 to 10 years has changed. Everything was very secreted and coveted, and now people are more expressly exchanging ideas, especially in organic. It was very like, oh, I've spent many years finding out how to do this, and I'm not going to share. But now everyone's open and sharing what's going on. And so right here you see our white mulberries. In my dad's country in Iran, they're obsessed with these. They call them toot safit, and they're amazing fresh. I think they're even better when they're dried. But our blackberries right here, this is not a thornless blackberry or like the Apache variety that we bred. This is the Kiano blackberry. They're really nice and flavorful. And then the cool thing this year, I did find boysenberries that we lost before after the fires that actually came back. So next year we'll be propagating a lot of boysenberries for production. So I'm super excited about that.
Oh,
So this is that dreadful day of the fire in 2018, of the
oh,
Woolsey fire. Um, so little tidbit on this page, picture, you'll see this lower field. This field is the newer area. This was the 10 acres that we decided to get in 2016. Um, and this area was going to be, you'll see in later pictures, as our small garden aspect that we brought to Agoura, because before that we would companion plant underneath all of our fruit trees. And this was like the first time of us being able to row crop in Agoura. So that was still that morning, kind of loading everything up. And my mom was already sent out with the dogs and everyone. And so my dad and I stayed until we got separated later on. At this point in time, my dad and I did get separated. He was able to get past the barricade, and unfortunately, I couldn't. Um, and I couldn't chance going over the mountain because the fire was already there, so I couldn't hike in. So I ended up going to Malibu Beach, and just this is me passing through the tunnels, and this is me at the beach. It's kind of crazy because it was pretty intense. The wind and the fire, like some of the stuff was actually landing on the beach from how intense the wind got.
mm,
Um, so, and then this is after the fire has already gone through. I was able to get in the next morning. Um, and that was our barn that we just finished retrofitting before the fire.
mm.
This was the greenhouse, my new greenhouse that I was super excited about. Literally, we finished it like 3 weeks before, but it burned. But we put it back. This is our Budahan lemons that we had just gotten that year. And you can actually see the pot completely burned, but the soil kept its structure from the roots. Australian finger limes that burned. So this is my dad's one of his nurseries. Just, you know, the pots burned completely, but the soil stayed in shape. And then now here comes the new. So after the fire, it was kind of like, what do we do? How do we come back? Because, you know, like every farm there are setbacks, but I think what sets you back is what builds your character to make you stronger. And so my dad was kind of trying to figure out what he wanted to do for the farm and bring it back, but I said like, hey, let's try microgreens. So this was our first foray into growing microgreens, and it turned out to be a big success. And along with that, I realized we're generating a lot of food on a different scale, and so someone could eat this. And as a farmer, your next thing is who can eat this, and that led to us having ducks. And the reason why we really like ducks is compared to chickens, they're not selective eaters. They will eat anything. I call them miniature cows. So day one, we start with microgreens. A couple of months later, we're doing the research and we settle in on ducks. I wanted, about 100 ducks to start. My dad said, if we're going to do this, we have to do this right, and said, no, we're going to get 400. 400 ducks. Our first time doing animals on a scale like this. Okay, Dad, you're the boss. We're going to do this. So it happened. I drove all the way up to Monterey and met this farm, and we picked up 400 ducks. And that's kind of how our rebound really is accelerated because, ducks are amazing creatures. Their fertilizer is extremely, extremely healthy and potent for the soil. It was unbelievable. Like, we never really tested the duck fertilizer till about last year. And when I took a 32-ounce mason jar and I got it tested, and it blew the chart for everything. It was excelling in nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, zinc, everything. And the cool part was the pH was 7.2. And that was kind of crazy because it was just, we didn't know what we were kind of doing. We were just taking 15-gallon buckets and just throwing it on every single tree every winter. Because, before a harvest, you need to have about 6 months for animal fertilizer to be applied. And so it was kind of cool. Like, when I started doing some research in our farm in Somis, I had a consultant come out and he was like, just do a test on it. And he was so thrilled with the results, he wanted to buy it for his own company to sell to other farms. And we were like, no, this is our golden egg. So like we do have it for sale in our farm shop, but it was like we just thought it was kind of like a unique thing that we grow 75% of our duck and chicken feed on the farm, and that's our microgreens. And the other 25% is a organic, no corn, no soy feed that we supplement to them. And so it was kind of like, it was our thing and we didn't want to let go of it. But we do like to share it with people in the community. And so these are peas that we were just kind of trying out. I believe these are speckled peas. So our first time growing strawberries was kind of a really fun experience because I was super excited and I had a credit card. I went and bought, Albion Seascapes, and then I stumbled across Alpine strawberries, which are truly my favorite. Unfortunately, on a commercial scale, they are not viable because they are super duper small. Sometimes they are no bigger than a pencil eraser, but they are the most flavorful strawberries you'll ever see. They do come in white and or whitish yellow and red, and they'll taste like pineapples, or some of them can taste like vanilla. But it's for a backyard garden, it's something I'd highly recommend because it is an experience that you can share with other people and they will be so excited. And I know you would be excited every year to get any fruit from those. And they are pretty productive, it's just they're really small. This right here is our lettuce patch. We have different varieties of butter lettuce, trucus lettuce, and Esbrook lettuce in here.
Mm.
Um, this is our red butter. This was grown under a oak tree, um, which I realized was a bad idea later on because there was a giant family of ground squirrels that lived
No.
under the oak tree in a spot. And this lettuce was beautiful, but never actually made it to market.
Mm.
But you live and learn in farming, and you employ an army of feral cats to do your bidding. So the next year, we were kind of good till the gophers came. But I digress on that.
Oh, feral
These are
cat.
parade bunching onions. Um, and so these are just some really fun things. I think as I progressed in our farming adventure in the beginning, um, a lot of farms are heavy into plastic culture. And we were too, because, for the 38 acres, there was my dad and I and one full time employee. So for us to go in the route of not using plastic, kind of trying to figure out cover crops, we kind of had to go the route of using plastic. But as of now, about 95% of our production is no longer using plastic. And that's like the new excitement because it was something that it was a catalyst to learn and study and get to this point that we are now. And it's,
Congratulations, Alex.
yeah, no, it's a big hurdle because I feel like there's a lot of documentation and research and you can see people in videos, but till I went and actually experienced a farm that was doing this in San Juan Capistrano, um, it, kind of clicked because I could see in reality, touch the dirt, ask the questions that were in my mind. And it also led to us going with a low till method of farming going forward. Still tilling, but a low till, shaping the beds once or twice a year. Um, and we're going to be focusing on composting and tilthing, silage tarping going forward. And so it just kind of like, it kind of shifted our mindset of how do we work as good stewards of the land, and still focusing on being a viable and profitable farm. And so that's kind of been our change and switch in this last beginning of this year. So I don't know if you guys remember, but there was that picture of the smoke and the fire. This is that lower field after the fire. This was our first year growing tomatoes down below, and we planted about 2,000 tomato plants that year. Um, right in the front, right here, this is one of my favorite tomatoes. It's called a Japanese black trife or trifle. It's kind of cool because it looks like a Bartlett pear in the shape, but it has like like the coloring of a Cherokee tomato. So it was really cool when I stumbled across that, and we still grow it. I just don't know if we lost the genetics this year because as we've been progressing, I slowly have stepped back on certain parts of the operation, and I've brought friends in to help who are just excited as I am about certain things in agriculture and our farming enterprise. And so it's just really cool to help other people get interested and excited as much as I am. So these right here are elephant garlic. They're really cool because I call it a garlic potato. Um, and if you were to hold one in your hand, it would fill up a pint basket that you would get like a pint of strawberries from the farmer's market. And they're some of the most amazing garlic you'll ever have. Um, Glad to say that we are back to growing garlic again. It is a small batch this year. Um, this is just so we can have seed garlic for the following year, and hopefully it can expand from there. Um, but it's truly one of my favorite garlics. So this is the Japanese black trife tomato right here. And like I said, it's truly an amazing tomato. And when they are full color, it's just, I don't know, it's mesmerizing. I am a nerd for agriculture and I am a nerd for food with color. And this one really is makes me happy. And then we have lunchbox peppers right here. These are our quinces. These are pineapple guavas. Some of the most amazing snacks that you could ever have. Um, this was the first year that we grew them, and then I also sent them to a friend to freeze dry them. And after the freeze drying process, they taste like natural Sour Patch Kids. So they're truly amazing. These are Hychia persimmons that we had. Now these peppers are, it's kind of cool because you know, I've been talking about my dad, but now we're going to incorporate my mom. My mom is from Peru, and so a big thing of what we've been doing, what I've been trying to push through the last couple of years too, is to incorporate things from both of their cultures. So we have figs, we have pomegranates, we have quince, we have tarragon from Middle East, and now it's peppers from Peru. These are called ají amarillo peppers. You see the beautiful color that they have. It's more of an orangey red right here. But when you cook with them, they turn yellow, and it's kind of like a peppery jalapeno pepper, ghost pepper vibe with them. They're spicy, but not really. They're more flavorful, and you're not feeling that you had a serrano pepper or a Carolina Reaper. They're really flavorful peppers, and a lot of times people make sauces with them. And so, post fire, it was kind of me trying to figure out how do we change our trajectory and how do we now go into the world of professional farming dabblers. And so I decided I wanted to try growing mushrooms. And the funny part was when I started growing mushrooms, I was not a fan of mushrooms. I was more excited about fungus and how amazing mycelium is. And this kind of changed my entire thought process of how mushrooms are. It was like after I grew them and was excited, it was just kind of like after that I fell in love with mushrooms. They're truly the most amazing thing that you can ever come across, and especially if you have the opportunity to grow it, it kind of just it shifted my whole mindset. And I really appreciate when you see farmers market fresh mushrooms to like, how I knew how much went into it, and I now really appreciate it. And so these right here are oyster mushrooms right here. This is lion's mane. This is from the bearded class of the lion's mane. Um, and with every farm, we have farm dogs. We have 5 on our farm. The brown one is basil. The blue or black is pomegranate. So after a while, I decided that all of our dogs should kind of have a fun farm produce name, and so here we go. Those are my two pals. They go with us everywhere. They protect everyone, and they are obsessed with my dad, which is okay because he's 75 and he needs some people to take care of him when I'm not here on the same farm with him, and that's totally okay with me. These right here are sunflower microgreens. So originally, when we started growing sunflower microgreens, we were doing fresh cut, and during COVID, there was a lot of rules and regulations that came down for agriculture, especially in farmers markets, where things couldn't be touched. Everything had to be prepackaged. And I already knew, like, when you go to a farmer's market and we were cutting microgreens, like, the shelf life didn't last. And so this started leading me to a different way of how do we grow these for our customers to enjoy. So now it was kind of that little time period, and I decided to try growing live microgreens for people to take home. And the really cool part about the take home live microgreens is they last you about a week, week and a half in the refrigerator. And once you completely have harvested it, you can put it on the counter or on the patio and mist it. In about 3 to 4 weeks, you get another flush. So it's kind of cool because like now people went from just being a recipient to being part of the farm journey, being able to grow a little bit of what we do on the farm. So and it was a big hit because people really love, getting their hands dirty, even if it just meant misting a little bit or seeing it grow again, it gave people hope and inspiration of being like, oh man, like I can do this. And it's like, that's, as a farmer, like I laugh when people are like, oh, like I wish I had as much space as you to like grow. And I said, do you have a backyard? Yeah. Like, do you have things in there? Yeah. Well, that's a farm. Like, I don't think there should be a limitation of the sizing or how to classify it. It's like, if you're growing and you're having fun, and like, that is your farm. Like, you have mastered your own space, and that is a farm. Like, don't sell yourself short. Like, acreage doesn't matter. If you're a master in what you're doing in your space, that is a farm, and you should be proud of that. Okay, so when we launched the farm in Somis, uh, this was my first time trying to compete with the big boys. And how do we do that? This was our first time actually buying a tractor. This is my first time buying a planting wheel machine. This is my first time buying a tiller that's 6 feet long, a subsoiler that goes 3.5 feet in the ground. So it was kind of just like one of those things where I was going and trying a whole new system of growing. And it was a hodgepodge that worked and didn't work. I saw a lot of things that I overcalculated or undercalculated, but hey, that's farming. You try to set a rule book and a map and pray and hope that it all works out. And sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it does better than you expected. And it's kind of how it happened year one out there. Like I said in the beginning, we did do a lot of plasticulture, and that was kind of like the norm. But as the years have progressed there, I have slowly have gotten away from that, and I am focusing on a different path of being a good steward of the land and building soil ecology, and not messing with the microbiome. Being
Mhm.
companion with the soil. So these are our tomatoes. They're right here. These are barren onions. This was the greenhouse on the left-hand side. These are pepino melons. They're cucumber melons. They originate from South America, so that's also kind of, they were grown in Peru as well. So that was incorporated there. These trays that here, we actually were growing herbs, passion fruit. It's really cool now that we're growing yellow and purple passion fruit. I'm hoping to find a variety that looks more orange, because that one also originates more from Peru. Spinach, Bloomsdale spinach, rosemary. Now, this is my favorite herb that I kind of stumbled across. Chervil, French parsley. It has a fennel-like vibe, but not fully fennel. It elevates every dish you throw it into, and immediately makes you a master chef. Rainbow chard. Um, Now, this guy right here is pistachio. My dad has 10 pistachio trees. I think he has decided they are his new children. So my brother and I do feel a little left out, but it's okay because he says he still loves us. So we're good. This right here is Pepino Malone, but it's a different variety. This variety originates from Ecuador. It's a purple, solid, like purple with black stripes, whereas the other one was a white with black stripes. This is sorrel. Kind of started just growing wild at one of the locations and has a really fun lemon flavor. Passion fruit flowers. Now, this is a fun one because I forgot I planted this. This is broccoli that went to flower, and I completely forgot it was in this greenhouse. Yes, I was watering it. We were taking it, but I completely forgot that it was there. And I said, my dad is going to be very upset because I forgot to take this to a farmer's market. And I had the idea to harvest the flowers and see if people were interested. So it was a hit for 2 weeks that we had it. People were blown with their minds that you can have broccoli flowers, and it people assume every time when a vegetable is flowering, it's always going to be bitter, but it's not the case for everything. And it was pretty cool because each flower literally tasted like you were eating an entire bunch of broccolini. So it's something fun to try.
Oh,
Um, so in Somas, we kind of, not we, me, I went nuts. Once again, I had a light bulb moment at 2 o'clock in the morning of, I have a lot of land, a lot of flat land now, or flatter land than we usually do. And led me down the dark search to find strawberries. But before, when I was buying strawberries, I was just buying like 30 or 40 plants at a time from small nurseries that were certified organic. And then I finally stumbled across a nursery um, in California that sold organic strawberries on scale for farming operations. So that year, for year one, I bought 6 different varieties of strawberries for us to grow. Um, and we had Albion Seascapes, San Andreas Fronteras. Um, I can't remember them all, but it was a really fun thing because every variety that I could get my hands on from that grower, I picked up. And it was like really cool because usually when you go to a farmer's market, you're getting like Monterey, Albions, or Seascapes. And it was fun to have different varieties because we picked up varieties that were mainly for backyard gardening. And it was cool to bring that to a farmer's market setting because I think it's really fun when the fruit speaks for itself by smell and color. And that was what our strawberries brought to the table. And it was cool because every box of strawberries was completely different and unique because we shuffled up the plant varieties and planted them that way. So every box was going to be completely different every single time. And you didn't know what you were getting. So it was just a fun thing to just kind of be like a kid being like, I'm here for the smells and the beautiful red coloring of the strawberries. This is Santa Fe broccolini. It's a purple broccolini that, once again, I am food color oriented, and I was super excited when I stumbled across the seeds and I saw the picture and I said, "Hey, we are going to grow this because I don't see any other people growing it, and I enjoy the colors of it." And so it was something that made me super happy, and it's something that we haven't been growing it for a little bit because it doesn't like winter time a bit, but we're bringing it back now because I did find it from a new seed supplier. And it's actually from my friend's company based in Ojai called the Plant Good Seed Company. And he has amazing seeds, and he's actually like our new seed supplier that we're switching towards because he has more heirloom varieties, and it's cool to support another small business like us. And I always try to start when I look for seeds to start with him first, and he always sends me recommendations of things that he thinks I might like to grow.
and he was the speaker at our club too.
Oh, Quinn, I love Quinn.
Yes,
He is
yes,
an amazing guy.
he is.
Um, these are French breakfast radishes. Um, I love the colors on them once again, but they are pretty mesmerizing. I'm super excited about this new variety of radish that we're growing as well. And I hope we have enough time to get to that picture. Bees out doing their job, pollination. I think they are the most underappreciated worker on a farm. And that's kind of like the cool thing about when you have that mindset of organic farming or biodynamic farming and regenerative farming, you're all about working with Mother Nature and how can you use little to no spraying, because a lot of times in conventional farming when they go and spray, it's actually harmful for the bees. And that's kind of like our more of our approach is how can we spray less? How can we build up Mother Nature's natural resistance? And that's what this year we're doing a lot of integrated pest management with flowers. So we're going to be planting a lot more marigold. We're also working on using companion planting on a different level to help out. And like the goal is to spray little to none. And I know like farming wise, like that's not something you usually do. It's all about I need to maximize. And it goes in our different route as we try to grow more and we expect more losses, but at the same time, with us growing more, it allows us to offset. And that's why we do cater more to a farmer's market, and we do cater to the wholesale. But it's kind of also gave us a switch this year because I did launch another company, um, A to Z Organics, which is a wholesale company that we work with fellow farmers to bring school food to schools so we can get nutrient healthy foods to students and expose them to the funky fruits and vegetables of farming. And so that was kind of like something that I've been wanting to do for a long time and finally had the chance to take that route. More bees pollinating. This was our lower field for last year of tomatoes. And we did interplant a little bit with some chard, onions, shallots, beets, just to kind of help the gophers eat something other than the tomatoes. It did work, and it also didn't work because this was the year where the gophers went crazy on our drip irrigation. And so that's
Oh,
kind of how we have switched our irrigation to be above ground for our tomatoes. So that way the gophers just don't go down the line and take a bite. And we're patching it and patching it and patching it till it's no longer a drip tape. These are grapes. The really cool thing is I did study agriculture at Pierce College, and I was going to be transferring to Cal Poly Pomona. So I have some partnerships with some friends that did have time to go and complete their degrees. And this was a partnership with the University of Arkansas, from one of my friends there. And they were working on a program to breed American grapes, American table grapes, with Concords and Thompsons and things like that. And now it's coming out with more of I call it the Skittles of grapes. So there's all these funky flavors and colors. Um, and so that was kind of like a cool thing that we were able to do something with them. This is the tomato field. Um, oops. Um, so this was really fun. I decided that we needed a drone on the farm to be able to monitor certain things and also kind of have some fun. And it was cool because my dad was super excited to see an aerial image of our hard work, and it was kind of cool to show to our community that we've been building. It a farm is only as good as the people around it, and like I'm a firm believer that we are powered by soil and powered by good people. And this is just kind of us wanting to share what we see on a daily basis what people don't get to see in many lifetimes, if they're not gardening in their backyard. So it's just kind of cool to share like kind of what we see on a daily basis with everyone.
nice, nice.
Um, so, you know, you can't have a man from the Middle East who doesn't have eggplant growing somewhere. And so this is a Chinese hot patong eggplant that my dad is obsessed with. And we cook a specific dish with it every year, cash bottom John. It's eggplant, shallots, mint. It's one of the most amazing dishes that you can get. And when you're able to grow your fresh eggplant to make it, makes it all the better. So these are our blackberries. The cool thing about our blackberries, my friend and I bred them. It was kind of a little project we did. Um, and he's actually at Cal Poly Pomona now, working with one of our professors that we had. And it was a 3-year project, kind of us just playing around. And it came out really well that people are obsessed with them at the farmers markets. And it's coming from our thornless blackberries as well. And it couldn't have been a better success. The next thing that we've been trying to work on is to do a thornless um, black raspberry, which we do have black raspberries, but it's just something that we're just trying to see. It's it's kind of fun to play with Mother Nature in certain aspects. Um, like the cool part, it's we didn't do anything to mess with the plants. It was just we were cross pollinating, trying to do things in a lab setting, growing them in from tissue cultures, from cuttings and test tubes, and just trying to see how we can get the most optimal blackberry to have the best flavor, as well as to have little to no thorns. So when we went to go pick, it wasn't a mission. Um, I think one of the coolest things ever is how math relates to agriculture, and that could be from fruits to vegetables to flowers. Um, Diana and I were talking earlier how she grew Romanesco, and that was something she started last year. And it's funky to think about that Romanesco follows the Fibonacci sequence, and the patterns of that are just mesmerizing. And I believe the same thing for sunflowers. It's one of the true things that on a hard day or a very tough day where everything is going sideways, up, down, right, sunflowers are my happy place. And it was really cool to be able to grow sunflowers a couple years ago, and we're continuing to grow sunflowers. These are our Klamath sunflowers. They are the large sunflowers, a mixture also with the autumn blend sunflowers. But this was just me being able to enjoy, growing a crop that was meant for sale, but also at the same time, I would have been happy if we didn't sell a single flower. They're just so beautiful and amazing, and I think it was just for me, it was calming just to see it go. Um, rainbow carrots. This is our starburst rainbow carrots. These seeds originate from High Mowing Seeds, um, another favorite company of mine. I work really closely with our seed coordinator over there, and they actually come out to your farm every year just to see how things are going or what suggestions or recommendations you have. And they do actually take it into consideration, and they let you know if it's something that they are working on or if it's something that is coming out soon, so that make you like super excited. uh, so I've been working with them for probably like 6 years now, and I've grown some stuff, specialty crops for them, for their seed program, because they wanted to see how it would work in Southern California. Once again, our famous tomatoes. Once again, food, color, that's the best way to do it. And how else are you going to get a kid to eat something that's green all the time? If they have something fun with color, eat the rainbow and you'll be good. Um, more of our heirloom tomatoes. Super excited about these guys. They're just starting for us this year. Can't go wrong. Colors. The autumn blend sunflowers. Isn't that just mesmerizing? Like I could stare at that all day long. Actually, my phone screensaver is a field of sunflowers. This was fun because we were growing zucchinis and squashes, and once again, I did forget that they were planted. Hence, they are rather large. They should be harvested when they're a little bit smaller. But it was kind of fun because people were excited to see fruits and vegetables that were not conventional size. And I think that's the thing that gets lost when we look at agriculture today, of how perfect everything has to be. And it shouldn't be. I think that is the variety of life, being able to look at fruits and vegetables that are wonky or funky or unique, because I think it just adds to the character and like how you can be creative in the kitchen. I think if you're able to be creative in the kitchen with something that you're like not used to be cooking, like it's fun when you're able to share that experience with your friends or family. And like that was a really fun thing that our customers actually got bought into it, because they were like, we get it, we want to have fun. And it was really cool hearing what everyone was doing with them. Some people were making they were cutting them into little rounds and making them a pizza. It was just really cool to hear. Once again, I forgot, but we did it, we sold it, and people were really happy about it. Tomatoes, you can't go wrong. These are Mountain Magic tomatoes. This is our Jubilee watermelon. It was our first year growing watermelons on a large scale. We've done them before, just 10 or 15 plants, but that year we grew 5 different varieties of watermelons. Um, and I think we had from each variety close to 400 plants.
Wow.
These are beet microgreens. We no longer do these. This was in our first foray with doing microgreens. They are very slow growers, and it didn't like go with my system that I have set up today. Today we're generating microgreens to be sold every 7 days.
Mm.
And it's using just a really low tech version of farm like greenhousing. Um, and the cool thing is like all of the soil for our microgreens and our seedlings that we do now in house are the soil that we use our duck fertilizer for. So it's all crafted in house. Now these are our figs right here. This is in the orchard that we call the the water well zone. This is going to be in the Black Mission area of our fig trees.
One
Uh,
of our members asked, how often do you fertilize those figs with the duck fertilizer?
we fertilize once a year, um, and that's usually at the end of winter because with duck fertilizer, even though we compost it for 6 months beforehand, um, for the organic NOP standards, you need about 6 months after you apply it to be able to harvest fruit from it, from those kind of trees. So that's kind of how we go for our figs. Um, and the other thing too with our figs, there's no liquid fertilization that we do. It's just the duck fertilizer predominantly. Um, and depending on how much we have, like unfortunately this year the weather was terrible in January, and we did lose our large coop of ducks. Um, it actually blew the entire structure off the mountain with ducks in it.
Oh,
Lost about 200 ducks to the wind, and then whatever survived, the coyotes got. And it was kind of crazy because I was up there that night at 6 o'clock, and because how bad the winds are, I didn't sleep because I was afraid of fires, and we did have fires. And around 2:30 in the morning, I woke up, kind of left the house because we already didn't have power. I went to go tell the farm team that lives on site, like, hey guys, like, be prepared. You know, it's moving quick. If we have to move, we're all gonna have to leave. And during that time period, I decided to walk to the top of the mountain, and that's when I discovered that our duck enclosure was completely gone. So up there in that enclosure, it looked like someone just cleared the mountain, and there was nothing ever there. And that structure was there for over 10 years. So the winds topped out at like 103 miles per hour on the farm during that. And that part right there is on the highest part of the farm. So it
mm.
got hit hard. This is our blackberries that we have in Somas. This is coming from the ones that we bred. This is baby eggplant. These are radishes. More fun sunflowers. Figs. These are our brown turkey figs. Our fun and flavorful strawberries that we have. These are a really cool flower. They're called Japanese buzz button. Um, this flower used to be used in dentistry because it's a local numbing agent. So if you were to chew on the flower buds, it numbs your mouth. Um, and we were growing these for a cocktail bar for them to use.
Oh,
This is a It's called Verdunas albana, I believe. This is white beets, or sugar beet. Red Russian kale that we had in our farm in Agoura. Sunflowers, because they're just amazing. More sunflowers. No, this is basil. My bad. Um, Tomatoes is still us kind of using a little bit of plasticulture. More red baron onions. This was the zucchini and summer squash. Now, this is just an amazing strawberry right here. Um, so with strawberries, I had to start learning a little bit more about what their nutrient needs. And, this was our first time having to explore using liquid fertilizer. Um, but luckily, I did a lot of homework and research, and I took a lot of advice from people. And the fertilizer that we use is actually coming from Spain for this, and it's a not a animal based fertilizer. These are actually mined minerals that we use. And the really nice thing is in farming, you have to look at the bio residue when you're using any sort of fertilizer in the water. And the nice thing about these guys, it's pretty clean. It doesn't build up any biofilm or residue in the line, so you don't have to use any funky cleaners in them. So this is just kind of our first time playing with it.
Do you have a well on your land?
I have on the farm in Agoura, we have two water wells, and then we have a county water main. And then the farm out in Somis is kind of cool because in the early 40s and 50s, they made a water company. And it's actually a coalition of farms that are all in that same area that made it. So they all share rights to the water well, and they are not controlled or regulated by the county, but it's a farmer to farmer regulated purpose there. And it's all agricultural water.
Great.
These are our loquats. My dad and I think these are the greatest um, fruits to snack on, especially when you have people try them for the first time because they're just looking at you like, I've never seen this before. And it's like, well, it's time to learn about loquats and how amazing and how sweet and tangy these fruits can be. And this year they're actually putting themselves into production. It took a little time for them to get established, but now they are kind of all over the farm in Agoura. And if you guys ever come visit the farm shop, you'll definitely see these guys. So when we took over the farm in Somis, originally it was a avocado and citrus orchard. Um, but when we took it over, the gentleman who had it didn't really farm it. He wasn't a farmer, so he just kind of let it do its own thing, and the property went a little bit down, or it was just kind of in that year where citrus was more expensive and avocados were just kind of like up and coming, but it wasn't prevalently known at the time. So a lot of the trees were dead, and my dad and I rehabbed a couple of the trees that were still alive. And this was our last year we had a small crop. This year we had a substantial crop of Hass avocados.
Hmm.
So going forward, we will be very flush with avocados with all these trees that we rehabbed. So one of the school districts that we um, partnered up with is Las Virgenes Unified School District, and it's really cool because went there as a student. Some of my farm team has children there, and so if I was going to start anywhere, I was going to start at home. And so we started a little bit last year, but this is our first year actually doing a partnership with them and getting healthy organic foods coming from my farm and couple other fellow farmers. And the cool thing about A to Z Organics, um, it is actually all just started with a handshake, farmer to farmer agreement being like, hey man, like, how can I help you get products that you can't get anywhere else to a school or whatever. And that's kind of how we launched A to Z Organics. Right now, we are serving Las Virgenes Unified School District, also Burgess Charter School in Oak Park, not Oak Park, in Ventura. So it's just kind of we started there, and then we're also doing Perseverance Christian Academy in Thousand Oaks. So it's just something that I'm super passionate about that I was able to finally get that ball rolling. These persimmons actually went to Las Vegas Unified School District to expose their children to different fruits that they might not see on their everyday basis. Not everyone goes to a farmer's market. Some people just their only option is seeing things at the grocery store, and this was cool to expose children to this. This is Zaldor romaine lettuce, um, right here. Um, Another cool thing, this last couple years, I've been trying to figure out how can I work with my friends more and more. My friend launched a ghee company, and this was kind of like, I'm really excited. I've never had ghee before, and once I tried his ghee, it was just the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
And so we did a collaboration with him, and we were growing rosemary and sage at the time, and he wanted to release a special ghee for Thanksgiving, and so there we go. The collaboration with Nawaya Foods and AZ Ranch started. We're actually growing garlic for him to do another collaboration. So it's just kind of cool when you're able to work with your friends. And like the other thing to it is like in our farm shop, we do carry things for my other friends, and it's not about like how one can be better than the other. It's how we all can lift each other up, and it's really fun being able to work with your friends and share that positive environment with them. These are kefir limes. I know they're not green, but we didn't see these, and so kind of like our little problem on the farm of there's a lot going on. There's 43 acres that we manage, try to be stewards of, and not everything is able to be seen. This is coming in our little citrus valley that is kind of on like the farthest part of the farm in Agoura. So you're not able to see it from any of our farm roads. You have to hike through the orchard to another part of the orchard that leads into a small valley, and those were there. These are really cool. This is red Ventura stalk celery. It's a variety of celery that's grown in China, has been grown in China since the 1700s. It's a little bit more saltier of a celery. The really nice thing though, it has the most amazing flavor. And it was just something that I was drawn to the color. Um, and it was just kind of like one of those things where I wasn't sure people were gonna buy onto it and think it'd be fun or interesting, but now people are kind of like excited because it's fun to buy something that is or try something that you don't normally get to see or experience every day. And so we'll also have a yellow variety of celery that I just got seeds for as well. That's from France. This was cool being able to show that we are starting to have avocados for sale at the farmers markets because people were asking for it. It was something we had many years ago, but on a small side. But now we were able to start bringing in on a weekly basis. We were able to pick about 6 to 10 crates a week of fresh avocados. More of our fun tomatoes. Once again, this is in the old plasticulture method. Now we're slowly switching up to this year of our change of everything, focusing on how we can use plastic less, how we can use compost more. Unfortunately, when this started, I didn't have silage tarps yet. So there's going to be a lot of weeds that end up growing in this area. But, that's the cost of farming. You just got to, sometimes you have to get in there before the next rain cycle comes in. And that's kind of what happened here. But hey, every moment is a learning and teachable moment. And I learned a lot from my first foray of going down this road with it. And that kind of also leads back into here of us wanting to work with our friends. So as I said, I was at Pierce College. I know that might not seem like a long time frame of 10 years for some people, but for me, it was kind of a bit. And I met a friend who worked on the farm at Pierce, and she worked with the sheep, and she was now working on her master's project right now. And she needed a spot to have sheep on a farm and to do or studies with using sheep wool in organic farming. And her part of her study is to use it in erosion control and how she can make pellets with sheep's wool for organic farming, for erosion, for using out in orchards. And so these are the sheep that she brought onto our farm. These are a family of Dorset sheep. This sheep right here, her name is Lady. She is the grandmother of the 6 sheep that we have. These are our forever sheep on the farm. As long as my friend wants to stay here, I will always allow her to be here.
Oh.
They're most amazing sheep. I have one of my dogs who thinks he wants to join the sheep family. Um, we still haven't had the heart to tell him he is not a sheep. So he hangs out with the sheep almost 24/7 as much as he can. We're glad he hasn't figured out how to jump the fence over there, but you know, you can't hope much with a dog that is an Italian Bergamasca who's a sheep herding dog. But we will try. We hope he doesn't get in there, but he's more curious because he thinks he's part of the team because they're all full of fur and woolly, and he is a mop with legs, so he thinks he relates pretty easily with them. So now with our new growing system, before you saw we had the planting wheel, and now this is into the side of us using compost more. And how do I use the tractor less? How can I accomplish the same goals and tasks? Like, yes, I am running a business, the family business. I'm trying to make sure that we're staying financially sound. And there's this amazing company um, from Japan called Paper Pot Co. They first popped onto my radar in 2016, and they came up with a very unique style of farming. Japan just leads the world in small scale agriculture with what they come up with. And this right here, these honeycombs are basically the coolest way of growing because it just kind of, you pop the seeds in there and you can drag a machine across and it separates the paper, and it's spaced out depending on what size trays you plant spacing you get, and it will plant accordingly. And so it was really cool that I was able to use the tractor. We're using the tractor less following this new method. Once again, lady getting her snack. The mustard from before is now coming all the way in. Once again, lady decided she needed to go for a walk, and so she's munching and foraging on some greens. Our blackberries.
So, Alex, how do you deal with pests like whiteflies and aphids?
So for whiteflies and aphids, we do use a trapping tape that we do put on the greenhouses. It's
Yes.
yellow and it attracts them. Um, but this year, knock on wood, so far I have not seen that many bugs, and I am hoping that continues forward. Uh, but that's why we're going to be trying to do a marigold interplanting along through there.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm also looking to see about putting basil in more places too. I think being able to also increase the diversity of having more pollinators brings in, a little bit different aspect. And I'm hoping to see what's the rules and regulations defining butterflies, not butterflies, ladybugs, to incorporate more ladybugs into the operation and for them to have a permanent home on site. Um, so that's kind of where we're going on that. And then this right here is a drone video of kind of like our new method. So on the left, you will see the silage tarp, and on the right, you'll see the row beds that we constructed. And like I said, the goal is to use the tractor less and to just disturb the soil as least as possible. And so we are going to be trying to do the row beds once or twice a year for maintenance. And so with every crop, we will be doing succession planting. This is kind of a different way instead of doing cover cropping, because when you go ahead and plant through and you go ahead and harvest, the idea is immediately afterwards you go and put a layer of compost, and then followed in with that you go with a tilthing process, which only flips the top 1 inch to 2 inches of soil, so you're not disturbing the microbiome below, because
Mhm.
all of the amazing energy, the carbon sequestration is all happening down there. And then after you do a till, the idea is to then plant immediately. So you don't let the soil rest or go fallow, but you keep planting so you increase the biodiversity of what you are planting. And so a lot of people have been doing this when they're on a smaller scale farm. Unfortunately, like we are larger, but we have a smaller workforce on our farm. So I had to think a little bit differently of how we should approach stuff. Um, because like, we're just spread very thin on our operation.
I
Uh,
think that's very cool and beautiful too.
yeah, I think it's cool just to try and like I think not all forms and shapes of the farming is unilateral. Like you can't just apply this concept to another farm and say it's going to work. I think you have to see which parts you can pick and choose to say this is going to work for us. And that is kind of like I feel like what people get lost in is no, I have to apply the same model to here, to there, to there. And that's kind of like the thing when like this past week I had my organic inspection, and that was from 10 a.m. to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon of
Mm.
just going over things with this inspector. And she was like, your approach is different. You hit and highlight the parts that you need to, but it's all tailored to how your operation is able to function and operate. And like that's the problem, is where people think everyone has to follow the same rule in growing aspects, but it's like you have to use what works for you. And that's the same thing in your backyards and your gardens. It's not going to be what you're growing here in Ventura County, what someone could be growing in Tehachapi. Everything is unique. Um, and so I think that's the cool part. And then what you see here is actually a new variety of spinach that we'll be growing. It's a tree spinach. It originates from Okinawa. So it's a purple on one side and green on the other side. It was something that I was late at night researching and kind of stumbled across. And I'm super excited. We'll have that in about a year to 2 years. It propagates by cutting, not by seeds.
Hmm.
This is
What
radishes
was the
that were grown.
spinach?
Yeah, it's a tree spinach.
Ah.
This is purple Nagrata faba bean. This is coming from the Plant Good Seed Company. It was a recommendation from Quinn. Hopefully they come out. My pea area did get hit pretty hard with the squirrels, so I'm not so sure yet. Our chickens. In here, you will see this guy right here. He's a solid black chicken from the comb all the way through. Even the meat on the chicken is dark as well. Um, it was just something that we kind of came across.
Hmm.
This right here is our new planting seed singulator. This allows us to do our lettuce mixes, which is something new for us this year. Um, and it's just really cool being able to plant 3 lines on the bed at once. We do 2 passes with it, so we do 6 lines per every row bed. We're also planting through compost here, so we're just trying to get away from using as much plastic as possible. And that is the lettuce mix that you just saw that was planted
Oh.
a couple of weeks later. This is our Encore lettuce mix right here. The row bed is 257 feet long. Um, so it's pretty cool. Carrots. Who doesn't have fun picking carrots to see what might come up? Um, that's the same rows before, but this is our line of pea tendrils. Unfortunately, our line of spinach that we seed singulated did not do well, but the spinach that we did start in the greenhouses that we've been doing for bunches did work out. Our strawberries. This is year 3 with year 2 with these strawberries. They're not going to be as big, but they're going to be more flavorful. There's some study, people will say, grow strawberries for 1 year, you're going to get the larger strawberries, semi flavorful. But I think year 2 strawberries, when they're a little bit smaller, they're going to have that more flavor to them. And this is still us using plastic culture because that's going to be one of the hardest things to grow without plastic, because it's just you don't want as much dirt on the strawberries. This is cool because this is the arugula that we started growing this year for our lettuce mix program. Um, and so it was just kind of exciting to have Astro arugula that was super fresh. Our Haas avocados again. This is a really fun find from the Plant Good Seed Company, Oaxacan corn. This year we're growing corn again, but we're growing all the fun varieties of corn. So we have Oaxacan green, Hopi blue corn, um, Murado maize corn, so purple corn. So just all sorts of fun things. And the idea with these is for us to mill them and sell them during the wintertime for corn flour. This is the planting machine I was telling you about from that was designed in Japan. But then there's a farmer out in Tennessee who made some modifications for them to use a little bit less metal to have more plastic components. That way they don't rust or degrade on the farm. And the cool thing is those trays, like I said, they will sit right up in here and it will pull the paper down and these wheels will tamp around the plants. Um,
Hmm.
so it's just really cool concept here. Um, Here's a video of it. So you just drag it. So this allows us to use the tractor less going forward. And, when I was planting with the tractor, it's 3 people. Now, yeah, my worker is helping me hold it. It was the first time I was using it, so we're just trying to dial it in. But it's once we're more work professional with it, it's just one person planting. So it allows us to be focusing more on weeding and keeping things more clean and organized. This is a really cool onion. It's called the Egyptian walking onion. Um, the really fun part is the flower up top, once it gets enough weight, actually bends down and seeds itself in the soil and progresses down the field, hence the name Egyptian walking onion.
Yeah.
This is our lettuce mixes again. So we have red salad bowl, which is just a red leaf. This right here is the powerhouse. It's a red romaine. Our first tomatoes of the season of this year, nasturtium flowers, which are just the most coolest and yummiest things to deal with. This is chayote, not chayote. This is a yellow flesh, I mean, not yellow, green flesh squash coming from the Plant Good Seed Company. We are growing these for seeds for them, as well as for production for our customers.
Oh.
This is Doodle. He is the youngest of the Dorset sheep. He's also the pickiest eater. Um, he was interested in our lettuce mixes. He put an order in, and we had to make sure it was up to his standards. This is our eggplant again. Um, just trying to see if they were interested in what we were selling, and I think they were. So they get a lot of our scraps that we have, or stuff that we're going to be giving to the ducks as well. We now set aside for our sheep family that we like to take care of. Um, Now, in the last couple of weeks, our tomatoes are starting to come in, so we're having our heirlooms starting to roll in right now. They haven't hit full swing yet, so it's just when we have enough, we're starting to bring them to markets, along with our cherry tomatoes. The school I was telling you in Ventura County that we also work with, the Bridges Charter School. This is Tron. She is the head director for their kitchen. They were doing a special tasting for strawberries for the parents to show them what their new program of bringing farm fresh produce. They actually shop every week at the farmers market for their students.
Hmm.
This is that new variety of radish that I was talking about earlier. It's called the China rose radish. It's a cousin of the daikon. We do grow this in its microgreen form, but it was really cool that I was able to source organic seeds for the larger form. And this week was the first week of us having it, or last weekend, and it was a big success. The eggplant started to roll in. This year, we decided to keep the eggplant from last year, that the pictures I've been showing you, because eggplants can last more than 1 year, but usually people don't. We left it in the greenhouse, and it did die down, and it came back, and we're just really excited to have, eggplant a little bit earlier, and we do have eggplant that we did sow seeds for in the greenhouse that will be heading out into the field. Our blackberries. This is our harvest from this past today, actually. because
Mm.
tomorrow we have an event at the farm. It's going to be our first tour on the farm, actually, for one of the schools that we service. Um, so it's kind of something that I've been wanting to do, and kind of just all kind of happened.
Mm.
This is this year's tomato crop. We planted about 10,000 tomato plants this year. As you can see, this is with no plastic, going the full idea of trying to limit plastic as much as possible. And you know how before I told you our biggest issue were the gophers? So I had decided we are going to lift our lines off the ground. That way the gophers couldn't eat them. Um, and so you'll see that there's two lines lift off the ground, and those are our drip irrigation that we're using. We already put the post in, everything is in there. Um, and that's about 10,000 tomato plants in that area. And
How
that
much do you
is
cut back the blackberries?
how much do I cut back the blackberries? So every year we cut the blackberries down in segments. Um, and when we strip them down, we're just taking the old growth and we top them to 4.5 feet.
Mm.
And just because we do have a height restriction in the greenhouse, um, we do grow them in the greenhouse for the fact of trying to have the least amount of dirt on them, as well as buffer them from the winds. Um, in the area that you saw that we had the baby leaf lettuce, we did have greenhouses there originally. The winds in November, when we had the fire in Somas, um, they actually completely tore down the greenhouse from the winds.
Oh.
We replaced them by mid to late December, and then in January, when we had the fires again in LA County, we lost those greenhouses again. So now we moved those greenhouses that we had on the top part of the farm to the lower part of the farm because it's a little bit more protected. Um, so it's
Mm.
just been a fun year of just trying to work with Mother Nature. It wasn't as bad as we've experienced before with Mother Nature, but it was close enough where things were a little bit more stressful in the beginning part of this year and trying to get our program started. Um, and so now we're kind of getting in the groove where I was wanting us before, and I still project that we are 3 months behind schedule because of everything that happened in January. But it's kind of cool that everything I had thought up in my head is finally kind of rolling through.
Nice. Wonderful, Alex.
And I
That
think,
was fabulous. That was a fabulous, fabulous presentation.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening.